Man, I never know when this thing starts. All right, it's good, everybody. As you can see, I'm in the boat, but I'm definitely not out of the lake. I didn't go fishing today. I went and helped some people do some things earlier this morning and kind of planned on it, but kind of like I said before, you know, you got the depression, anxiety, and all that stuff that kind of messes with your energy level sometimes. Plus, you couple that with, you know, my knees acting up, my back's acting up today, and in your mind, it's like, go, 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 but your body's like, yo, sit that ass down. So, this is a damn ice cream truck. I mean, I'm surprised and things still exist. I kind of want to run up to the shit, man. I don't know if it's like the inner kid in me or whatever it is, but then again, some of them cats be looking real sketch. Fuck around, throw me in the back. But anyway, yeah, so I didn't go anywhere today. I didn't do any fishing or anything like that. Right now I'm doing a little bit of maintenance. One of my bunks moves a little bit too much, so I'm gonna try to see if I can tighten it up, and then just go ahead and prep my boat, get everything put in there and stuff, so that I can just hook up, check my stuff, and kind of go tomorrow. Man, it's been crazy. So first off, you know, I didn't really start doing this to get views or anything crazy like that, but those of you that commented and watched it, and a lot of people reached out, and though I didn't do it for that, man, I really wish this damn truck would just pass the fuck on. Ain't even no kids out here, man. That's weird. You know, it was pretty awesome, man. So that was really cool, and you know, hopefully me explaining some of the stuff, because this is really like a different type of therapy for me, just kind of getting it off of the hard drive, so I don't have to have it clouding up my mind, so maybe I can store other things. But today's one of those days I was talking about where you're kind of like under, you want to stay under the bed, you know. Bed feels nice, so you stay in it. But I mean, I didn't stay in it. I went and did some stuff, but you know, everything feels forced. I didn't take my anti-anxiety because it's usually like as needed. Plus, it makes you a little sleepy. But I did take my antidepressant today, and that one's it's a little funny. Like you feel like you got energy, but you're still tired. It's super weird. Also, my heart's been kind of like thumping, and I don't know if that's because of whatever heart condition I have or having an anxiety attack. But I'm not really anxious about anything. But it feels like, you know, some cats is in there, you know, busting my left and right ventricle. So you tell yourself to calm down, like, okay, calm down. But in the process of you telling yourself to calm down, it makes it worse. So it's kind of crazy, and it's more so like whenever you're about to do an event, when you have anxiety, like you're measuring out variables. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you ever seen Doctor Strange. The last one where he's like, oh, I went through like a million and there's only one where we live type shit. Like a lot of people that we try to zero out variables, and I think it's general anxiety. But a lot of the cats, like, you know, in the military, we're used to operating in constant crisis, right? So it's like, oh, shit's blowing up around us type stuff like that. Like, yeah, well, let that shit blow up, let's figure it out, you know. But realistically, on the inside, externally, you're like, oh, that guy's cooler than the other side of the pillow. But internally, you scream like, ah, you screaming like a little girl and shit. So, you know, that's kind of what it's like, man. And then, you know, a lot of people that it hasn't hit them yet, or maybe they deal with it better, I don't know. But they'll be like, oh, you know, that's easy. And here's the thing. Easy stuff, for a lot of us, that go through it, that been through it, and not just servicemen, just people in general, easy stuff is hard. And hard stuff is still hard. It's just everything hard, you know? So it's one of those things where you can either choose to stay where you're at and not do anything, or force it, right? And there's only so much amount of force that you can apply before, you know, your body shuts down, or you just say, yo, I'm not doing this today, or you develop a process where you continually avoid the situation entirely. You talk, most people is, you know, Walmart's a madhouse, right? Ross on a Sunday is madhouse. Target sometimes gets crazy, right? But it's different for a lot of us, right? For the longest time, only way I could go to a place like that to get what I needed was I had to be with my son. And it's not that I was freaking out. It was more so I had to make sure that he was good, and it put me on mission. So I got to complete the mission. What's the mission? I got to go get 2% milk. You know what I mean? But that 2% milk mission turns into, or what it is in my head is like, oh, I'm running from something, or bombs is going off, or people are shooting at me. And it's really not that serious, but it is, you know what I'm saying? And it's something that gets kind of created in the mind, so a degree to where it's psychosomatic, but it has realistic, like, bodily reactions. You know what I'm saying? You start sweating, heart starts pumping, vision gets weird. For me, everybody starts to look the same, and then I feel like I'm a glitch in the matrix, and everybody starts looking at me. So I don't feel right. I feel really weird. So it's one of those things. I explain that stuff. My life still goes on. You know, I don't want pity. I'm sorry you're going through that. That's cool and everything, that you could be empathetic and sympathetic. But for a lot of us, that's not what we want. We want to get it off for the forebrain, because it's something that essentially is permanent. You know what I'm saying? It's something that you gotta deal with. There's ways to minimize it. There's ways to mitigate it. You know what I'm saying? But it's something that's kind of instilled, and maybe it will go away. I don't know. But currently, in this point in time, I feel like it's something that's a part of my DNA at this point. So things are hard. It's easier for me to stay in the house more than it is to go out and integrate. And don't get me wrong, you know, when I get out there, you know, I feel in a place I'm comfortable, you can't shut me up. But in no way, shape, or form does that mean that realistically on the inside I'm comfortable, because I'm not. But it's one of those things where you feel like you have to, right? And it's like everybody's like, oh, you got a choice. And this is just my theory about choices, right? We really don't have a choice, right? What we have is a predetermined set of options to choose from depending on your environment, right? And a lot of people may disagree with me or that, but like listen to what I'm saying, right? A preset number of options depending on the environment that you're in. Some people can pick A through D. Some people are only going to be able to pick B and C. Some people can go A and D, and then there's a small possibility that there's a E and F floater out there somewhere, and you can maybe step out of that box that you're in, where your options exist that are already created, that kind of fool you into thinking that maybe you have a choice. Yeah, you could pick between those options, but to me, I don't really consider that a choice, right? Every now and then you can step to the box, you know, like E and F type stuff. There's certain things that you got to do to get there, but nobody tells you what it is. And then for all you know, when you select E and F, because they highlight, you know, it could be wrong, and then maybe it could be good. You know, everything you feel like you do is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I could have done it a different way. Could you have really, though? You'll never know. So you know, why worry about it? And it's you know, you'll have a lot of people that, you know, won't talk, especially men. You know, we're not allowed to talk about this kind of stuff, and that's more of a societal norm where I guess it's becoming more socially acceptable, I guess, but I don't feel like it is, right? Realistically, I'm gonna talk about it because I don't really care, you know what I'm saying? Because you start to find out that, like I said, I got a lot of good people that care about me, actually support me, you know, just let me be me, let me be crazy, you know what I mean? And it means the world to me. But there's a lot more people out here that'll say that to your face, and they're the ones that are actually turning the wheel. You know what I'm saying? The other guys, you know, they're just accessory equipment, because they're the few, where the bulk of the people will listen. They'll understand that, oh, I hear you, brother. And then they use it against you the first opportunity that they get a chance. I know you're going through stuff, but that's where they get you. I know you're going through stuff. I don't give a shit. Here we go. You know what I mean? That's essentially what goes on in the head. But yeah, just today wasn't a down day for me. It wasn't a good day. It wasn't a bad day. It was just a day. You know what I mean? That I didn't go fish. And you know, I need to go fish, and it's one of the things where now I'm kind of on this trend. Everybody's like, man, you done a lot of stuff, and it's not because I want to be good at everything or find my one thing to where, like, you know, I launch off. It's that I guess you chasing, like, kind of like a dopamine high, man. Like, you get to a point in your life where the only thing you feel is pain, and then, like, you only know you got a problem when you don't feel that, which is really weird. Instead of being like, yo, I'm not happy or whatever, and you got to feel pain, you got to be sad, you got to be mad from time to time. You can't have one without the other. You got to have that balance, because if not, one doesn't mean anything, and you can't really you can't really enjoy one or respect and understand that it's precious if you don't have the other thing to kind of take it down, right? So yeah, I chased a lot of things, you know, skateboarding, electronics, computers, all the cats that know me, man. There's not a whole lot of things I can't help you with, you know, and I will. Just because I'm like, damn, I'm excited that I learned this stuff. It's real easy for me, and it saves somebody some money, you know. But realistically, again, like I said, last two things that was consistent: martial arts, because one, you feel that pain every day, and you walk through it, and it gives you a sense of like you're invincible. Like, yeah, you carrying a bag of bricks or whatever, but I'll take their bricks too. You know what I'm saying? I can walk with those. I ain't judging or nothing. Maybe that guy can't walk with his bricks. Hey, but I can. You know what I mean? And you keep piling the bricks in a backpack, but nobody sees the bag. They just see you moving along, one foot in front of the other, be like, yo, that guy's okay. And most of us are not. I'm not. And that's okay. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. So like fishing, martial arts, the fishing thing was really like the last. I tell people, and a lot of people are like, oh, they think it's funny. Like, yo, this is the last thing I'm doing, because one, it's costing me a shit ton of money. I dive way too far into things, and then I just stop. I can't stop this one. But yeah, man, I'm gonna keep doing this, because like just even the last week, being able to talk about it and realize that, you know, people are watching. They do like to hear the things that I say, and they believe in me, even though I never have believed in myself. You know what I mean? Something I got to work on. But with all that aside, you know what I'm saying, tell you about my day, let you know, like, hey, if you're going through it, you know, go through it. Don't compare it to anybody else's, because it's yours. You own it. It belongs to you. I get a cast that I talk to a scenario, right? And everybody almost always answers this wrong. I say, hey, man, if I get shot in the shoulder and you stub your toe, which one is worse? Everybody always says my bullet wound, man. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm bleeding out. Shit hurts. I might be screaming and crying or whatever. And it is unfortunate. And you can sympathize, empathize, which, you know, in a way, even though people do care, are synthetic emotions. Almost a societal norm to where you're supposed to be a decent human being. But that's the wrong answer. If I'm shot in the shoulder and you stub your toe, your fucking toe is the worst thing, because you own that. That's yours. You got to fix it. Do you really think that me being shot and bleeding out, you think I care about your toe? I might want to care about your toe, but in that particular moment, I definitely don't. You know, we got to stop putting scales to stuff. Like, hey, you know, I fell off of a ladder and I hurt. Like, oh, are you walking? I lost lower half. That's cool and everything, man. That's unfortunate. I'm glad that didn't happen to me, but right now, boy, I'm hurting because I fell off the ladder. I need to address that. We get so far ahead of ourselves into pushing it off, and then it collects. And then we explode, and everybody's like, what's wrong with him? Bro, I've been carrying a bag of bricks for 300 miles. That's what's wrong with me. My feet hurt. But, you know, that's one of the things you gotta not be selfish, right? But a lot of people tell you to be selfless, and that's a concept that I don't understand. How can you be selfless if you are yourself? And I understand the concept of what they mean, but it's questions that I got, that, you know, that I have, that kind of runs me down a rabbit hole, keeps me occupied. Because I feel like a lot of people, they have that internal dialogue. They're like, oh, I hear voices. Yeah, I got an internal dialogue going on, man. Like, when I'm talking to people or I'm going through stuff straight off the top, you know, it's playing chess in my head. You know, remember I was like, oh, you got to fight the demons. I had a different concept on them demons, man. Why are you fighting them for? You know what I'm saying? I get what they mean, and some people just have some bad things and they call them demons, right? But in a way, we created whatever we would maybe call demons, right? And sometimes they need to be fed. Sometimes they need to be hugged. And yes, sometimes they need to be quieted, but the main thing is we created them for a reason. There was a cause. Maybe we need to understand why they're there. You know what I mean? It's more of a diversion of energy instead of a complete avoidance or a complete fight all the time, you know? Because I feel like that's mainly what we are on the planet to do, is fight, whatever kind of fighting it is, whether it's physical fighting, mental warfare, any of that stuff, man. Everything's a battle. And you can give up. you could definitely take an L, because most of us take regularly scheduled L's every single day. But I always tell people too, a hard fought L is better than an easy win in my book any day of the week. It's when you don't fight, it's when you don't at least go, that needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? But anyways, today I said I was going to do a couple basic things for fishing. So one of the things that I did not know, and it was my brother, he hits me up. He's my younger brother too, by the way. The wisdom in that dude is by far well above most people on this planet. Anytime I need leveling, I'm definitely gonna call him, right? So I went to the store. We was in Connecticut, and I'm with Gabe, and I want Gabe to catch his first fish, man. We fished out here so many times, never caught anything, not a bite, not nothing. And that became my brother's goal, was to get him a fish before we left Connecticut. So my brother had so much stuff to show me. So we go to get our rods from Dick's Sporting Goods in Lisbon, and I'm like, yo, what do I need? And at this time, I don't know what a medium, heavy, fast, moderate, slow, I don't know what any of this is. And honestly, I didn't even know the difference between a casting rod and a spinning rod. I remember as a kid having those little spin cast things, and having, like, when you upgraded and you was like damn near professional, you know what I'm saying? You had the your spinning rods, and that was it. I don't even know if bait casters existed back then. But I don't know the difference between a spinning rod and a casting rod, right? So, and for a lot of you guys, I've been fishing a while, like, oh yeah, duh. This ain't for you. This is for the cats that are doing the research, looking at, and getting discouraged because there's so much information out there, and you're like, oh man, and it kind of runs them away from it, right? So I'm basically just gonna go over what they look like, so you can get them by sight. There's a lot of different companies that will actually put them on the actual label on the side, which I'll briefly go over as well. And I'm not going to go too far on the actions, what they're used for, because it's different for everybody. But there is kind of an all-purpose thing that you can do, and eventually as we go on, and these are the things that I've learned, these are the things that work for me. They may not work for you. And this is to catch fish, you know what I'm saying? Mainly bass. I'm not going out there, like, hey, this is going to get you a 12-pounder. And I ain't even caught one of those yet. So when I figure it out, I'll let you know. But, this is, just the hook up, man. Just catching the fishes, though. So I'm going to step out of the picture for a second. I'm going to grab the first one. All right. So this one, my brother, this is probably the most expensive rod that I got. And I'll go over that, too. You don't need to spend a fortune realistically ever, but right off the bat, right? There's a lot of good quality rods for a good price, and ones you can use for multiple things, so this right here is a Phoenix Feather, okay? And although I'm with Kistler, great company, great rods. I had broke my last one, and the warranty on those is fantastic. The customer service is ridiculous. If you've never heard of Kistler, and never had a Kistler rod, and you're a little more advanced, you want to open up the repertoire, they're out of Magnolia, Texas. It's Trey Kistler. He's a veteran also. Those guys are great down there, and you can get, it's probably the cheapest place you can get a custom rod in the world, right? But anyways, off my sales pitch, right? This right here is a Phoenix Feather, and all I did was mention this, and my brother ended up giving it to me for my birthday. Now, when I say spinning, right? So obviously this is a spinning reel. Okay, and I'll show you a bait caster in a little bit, but this is a spinning reel, and this is a spinning rod. Now on this, it will actually state certain things. It'll say FTX. I don't know if you guys can see that, and it'll say S. Okay, not a lot of companies do that. So FTX S means spinning, right? And then you'll see the 71M. Okay. The 71M means that it's a 7 feet, 1 inch, medium, okay? And that's the power. So you're gonna have power, you're gonna have action. I'm not gonna go too far into that, but a lot of the stuff is listed on the side of the rod. But how you tell visually is, I don't know if you can see this bottom eye here. This bottom eye is kind of elongated and huge, right? This is to facilitate the line going through the guide, because on a spinning reel, obviously you're going to have a lot of the line, it's going to be unwrapping and it's going to be flapping around like this, right? So you have too thin of a guide, it's going to kind of slow down the line, and you're not going to get a long cast. Now, can you do some hood shit and put a spinning reel on a bait caster and vice versa? Yes, you can. Will it work? Yeah, it will. It's just not gonna work very well. Like, yeah, you could go around using vice grips for everything, and maybe you're really good with vice grips, and it gets the job done, but it may not be the tool for the job. And in that particular case, you need to make sure that you pair up the correct reel with the correct rod. And then I said, like, later on, I'll go over like different types of things, a little bit more advanced, the gear ratio, things like that. Things that aren't very necessary for you to just get up out there and fishing, but once you figure it out, you're like, man, and it kind of opens up a whole new world. So get ready, because you're just gonna be buying random shit. It's gonna make you so happy until you look at your bank account, right? But it's one of those things that after a while you get in tune with your equipment, because it's a tool just like anything else. But you don't want to ruin the experience. If you're just going out there to have fun and stuff, like, having relatively decent equipment is going to make sure that it stays fun. But there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to dive into that's going to make things more efficient and effective, and that's usually later on down the line. So this is a spinning rod. I'm going to go over this a little bit. So obviously, like I said, this is a medium 7-1, and I use this for my drop shot. Another video, I'll show you guys how I rig up my drop shot. I love drop shot. It is by far my favorite technique, but it is annoying, especially in tournaments. Having to rewrap it or retie a leader, losing a weight, it's irritating. That's why a lot of people shy away from it, but it's one of those things where it's a last resort for some people, and for me, this is a crutch, right? I have other techniques that I use, but I thoroughly love the drop shot. So this particular rod is a 7-1 medium, like I said. So the medium is the backbone, power, and usually you can tell by the line rating. Different companies will have different line ratings, and you'll see where it says line. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that, but this one says actually 6 of 14, and it's also going to give you a lure weight. Okay, what this is basically the amount of weight you can cast really efficiently. Although on this, I would never throw a 3/4, because if I'm throwing a 3/4 weight, that means the bait is making it more than 3/4, and it's going to be weird. Okay, so I like to stay in between or just under that. The most I would ever throw on this is maybe a 1/2 ounce. If I got to go more than a 1/2 ounce, I'm going to use a different rod. Okay. The 6 of 14 is the line, right? A lot of them are rated for monofilament or fluorocarbon. The reason why that matters, monofilament floats. It's got a little bit more stretch to it, and it has its applications, right? A lot of people go fluorocarbon. It sinks. It's quite a bit stretchy, a little bit stronger in some applications, but there's going to be a reason for it one time or another, and I'll get to that later on down the line, right? But what you want to do with that line size is this: between a 6 and a 14, you want to stay between 6 and 14. You don't necessarily want to go less, but you can, it'll still work. And you definitely don't want to go over, like to the 15, but you can, it'll still work. But don't get mad if you lose a fish or you start snapping your rods, okay? A lot of these are a lot stronger than what they rate, but you don't want to play with that, especially if you put some money on them. So also, this is a rated fast. It doesn't really say it on here, but this is a fast tip. Okay, you're gonna have different actions, right? And your standard for anything, a medium, heavy, fast, is your all-purpose everything, right? You can do just about everything you need in the entire world of fishing, especially recreationally, with a medium, heavy, fast, anything. And then the length, a 7-foot, good to go. The longer you get in length, the longer your casts are going to be. So if you get a 7-1, a 7-2, a 7-6, you're going to be able to bomb it out there. A 7's still going to get it out there, but it's going to be more of a shorter thing. But anyways, the action is essentially the parabola, like the curve that the rod's going to be on, right? And not all fast, medium, moderate are created equal. And I'm not talking about quality of the rod. I'm talking about people's interpretation of the actual bend. So over time, you're like, oh man, you had a great rod that worked for you. You loved it. And you're like, oh, I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to get this. This is a medium, heavy, fast. And then you get upset because it didn't feel the same. Either one, you kind of adjust to that because it's probably a better feel, or it's a little more spongy. You know, it's something that you got to get used to. Or, especially if you change companies, that's just not how they do their blanks. So what I mean by that, and this being a fast, and it's going to be really hard to put into the camera, what I like to do to judge it, to see, especially if I'm buying a different brand, is I'll run to where the backbone is, and then I'll apply that pressure very slightly, and I'll run it up the top. And then what's going to happen is you're going to see it start to bend. So if I stop there, right there, you know, for me right now, I'll be like, yo, it's a moderate, but you got to run it all the way to the tip. So once you run it to the tip, it gets really, really springy, and you'll see the majority of the bend is at the tip. This is what a fast tip is, and I consider this a true fast tip, right? Now we go to something, this is another rod that I love. This is a St. Croix Bass X. You get these at Dick's Sporting Goods for 120 bucks, but you don't got to spend 120 bucks for a good rod. You can go get you a little Lose American Hero for about 40 bucks, and it'll do you right. But this right here is also the same thing. It's a medium action, same line size, 7-1, 6 to 12, so it's a little bit lighter on the line. But check this out, right? It's rated as a fast, but as I start bending, it starts bending here, right? Same thing, if I stop right here, it'd be a moderate, right? But as I keep going, as you can see, it still maintains that. And it doesn't get really springy into the tip. So even though this is a fast, this parabola, and when you set the hook, is more like a moderate, which was a little irritating for me. Like once I figured, I'm like, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I'm like, man, this feels more like a moderate, This is weird, because the hook set is different. But either way, I love this. This was my original drop shot rod before my brother had bought me the other one. And now I use this for Texas rigging, and it works perfectly. So now, before I close this off, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the bait caster. And I only got one in the boat right now because I took everything out. And I gotta lift this thing up for it. So I'm gonna turn y'all real quick. Open up this rod locker. All right. Trying to get this out of here. All right, I'm back. Check it out. So this is huge. This is the only one. This is my. I'm too short. I don't know why I keep doing that. All right, so this is actually my swim bait rod. Hey man, don't get into swim bait fishing. It's too damn expensive. But so this right here, this is a casting reel. Now this is a relatively big casting reel, but you can tell the difference in the guides, like I said, on a casting reel. This being a 7.6, it's a medium heavy. But Abu Garcia is one of the few companies where you can get a medium heavy that's rated at 1 ounce to 4 ounce, which you would need for something to throw as big as this, right? So you're going to see it at the guide. You're like, oh man, it looks like the other one, but it's not. So you see how this is closer to the blank. And then you're going to have this one that is, if I can get this on loose, is elongated and away from the blank. The holes look the same size. This is a smaller rod. Hole doesn't need to be that big. And this one has micro guides. And this one's a casting rod, so it doesn't have to be too crazy. But that bottom guide that you're going to see is always going to be a little bit smaller, because on a bait caster, which I'll go into at some other point, I love these things, but man, it's a learning curve. It's kind of streamlines it through the guides. Now, if you throw this bait caster on a spinning rod, yeah, it's going to work. Is it going to work efficiently? No. Is it going to cast as far? No. So you want to make sure that you pair up your equipment with the right accessory equipment. As well. And actually what I have on this one is a favorite fishing whitebird. You get this bait caster, amazing bait caster. I think they're 60 bucks. And it's never done me wrong. You know what I'm saying? 5+1 ball bearing, all that other stuff. But yeah, that's real quick. The difference between a spinning and a casting rod. Very easy. Look at the label if you can. A lot of times it's going to be on a label. If not, look at that bottom guide. And now hopefully this video will be like, oh, okay, that's a casting rod. That's a spinning rod. Or maybe ask somebody at the store, because a lot of the guys that work at these places, they are outdoor enthusiasts. They do know what they're talking about for the most part. And they get crazy discounts too. But yeah, man, hopefully that helps. Hopefully that's good. I think the next one, maybe I'll break down some baits, or the difference in gear ratio, braid, fluorocarbon, some of these other things that I've learned, and maybe some of the top techniques. I did plan on going to the aqueduct today, but my back was killing me. I'd like to break down the aqueduct because it's literally 20 minutes from base. There's a lot of huge largemouth bass in there. There's carp in there, catfish. Every now and then you get some panfish like bluegill and stuff. Not my thing. I just go there for the largemouth. But it can be challenging, and right now with the flow of water, it's deterring a lot of people, because normal stuff that they're looking for, like a drop shot, you know, 1/4 ounce weight will sink about 30 feet, you know, a couple of seconds, right? But if the water's moving this way, it's never really gonna hit the bottom. You don't get the feeling, you get frustrated, and you gotta change it. And I was frustrated, that's why I left for a while. But then I started to realize the direction that the water was moving, being a co-angler in the back of the boat, not having control over the front, and the boater, you know, consistently moving forward, it's the same thing. So it kind of helped me launch and be able to predict where my stuff was gonna go depending on the depth, because the water's consistently flowing that way. And then, you know, last week I started catching fish. It was dope. So it's kind of like trying to find that practical application that didn't ruin it. And I just want to break down maybe the aqueduct. I'm not gonna give you the hot spots and stuff like that, so don't ask me. But I will give you some of the stuff that does work, and there's a lot of the stuff I learned from a lot of the guys that were already fishing there, and a lot of the things that have worked for me over the last 3 years. But other than that, hopefully you guys get a chance to watch this. Hopefully it helps you. Yeah, man, just thanks for watching. Other than that, man, I'll see you in the next one.